Dr. Alan Wright stared at the data on his screen, his eyes growing wider by the second. He'd been monitoring deep space signals for years at the Lunar Research Station, but he'd never seen anything like this before. "This can't be right," he muttered, running the calculations again. The anomalous energy signature remained unchanged. It was as if a patch of space was simply disappearing. He quickly sent a message to his colleague, Dr. Lisa Martinez, who arrived at his lab module within minutes. Her usual cheerful expression faded as she examined his findings. "How long have you been tracking this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. 3 weeks, Alan replied. "At first, I thought it was equipment malfunction, but I've confirmed it with 3 different arrays now." Lisa's fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up additional data. "It's expanding," she said. "And if these calculations are correct, it's not just empty space. It's consuming everything in its path. Matter, energy, even light." Alan nodded grimly. "I'm calling it a void. It's the only appropriate term." Lisa ran a trajectory analysis, her face growing paler as the results appeared. "Alan, this is heading toward the Orion Spur. There are 17 known civilizations in that path, including colony worlds in the Epsilon sector. We need to alert the United Earth government immediately," Alan said, already composing an urgent message. "This could be the greatest threat humanity has ever faced." Within 12 hours, they were presenting their findings to the Emergency Council, a group of 20 government officials who looked increasingly disturbed as Alan and Lisa explained their discovery. "So you're telling us there's essentially a hole in space that's getting bigger?" asked Secretary Gordon, his bushy eyebrows furrowed. "It's more complex than that," Lisa clarified. "It's not simply a hole. It's actively consuming everything it encounters. Stars, planets, radiation. They don't just disappear into it. They cease to exist." "How is that even possible?" asked another counselor. Alan stepped forward. "We don't know. It defies our current understanding of physics. But the data is conclusive. And if it continues on its current trajectory at its current rate of expansion, it will reach populated systems within 8 years." The room erupted in concerned murmurs until Director Patricia Blackwell, head of Space Defense, slammed her hand on the table. "Enough speculation. What are our options?" Lisa activated a holographic display. "We've run simulations. Evacuation of threatened systems might be possible, but the void's expansion rate makes this a temporary solution at best. Eventually, it would claim everything." "What about stopping it?" Patricia asked. Alan shook his head. "We don't know how. We don't even understand what it is yet." "Then we need more information," Patricia decided. "And we need to warn others. This isn't just our problem. Every spacefaring civilization is at risk. Some of those civilizations are far more advanced than we are," Secretary Gordon pointed out. "They might have technology or knowledge that could help." Alan and Lisa exchanged glances. It was no secret that humanity wasn't among the oldest or most technologically advanced species in the galaxy. Some had been exploring space when humans were still learning to use stone tools. "Then perhaps that's our role in this," Alan suggested. "We can be the messengers, the warners." Patricia nodded slowly. "I'll speak with the president. We'll need to prepare our fastest vessels for deep space diplomatic missions. If this void is as dangerous as you believe, we'll need every ally we can get." As the meeting adjourned, Alan stood at the viewport, staring at the stars above lunar soil. Somewhere out there, a darkness was spreading that could end everything. Humanity had just become the bearer of the worst news in galactic history. Captain Olivia Daniels stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace through the main view screen. Her ship, one of Earth's fastest deep space vessels, had been traveling for 3 months to reach the homeworld of the Viridian Alliance. "Exiting hyperspace in 30 seconds, Captain," announced the pilot, Officer Ryan Kelly. Olivia straightened her uniform. "All hands to first contact stations. Remember, we're not just representing Earth here. We're representing all life that wants to keep existing. The Harbinger emerged into normal space with a flash of light. Before them hung a magnificent ringed planet surrounded by orbital structures that made Earth's space stations look like children's toys. "They're hailing us," said Jack Monroe, the communications specialist. His fingers danced across his console as he established the connection. "Translation matrix is ready." The view screen flickered to show a tall, slender being with iridescent skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. "Greetings, vessel from Earth. I am High Counselor Zeth. Your request for an emergency audience was unusual." Olivia stepped forward. "Thank you for receiving us, High Counselor. We bring urgent information that affects all intelligent life in this quadrant." Within an hour, Olivia and her science officer, Ben Collins, stood before the Viridian Council, explaining the void and sharing their data. Their reception was colder than the vacuum of space. "This theory is based on primitive observation methods," stated one counselor dismissively. "Our sensors have detected no such anomaly." Ben activated a holographic display. "With respect, your civilization's sensors are focused on different frequencies. The void is most detectable in these specific quantum ranges." He highlighted the data. "We've brought calibration codes to help you confirm our findings." "This could be an elaborate deception," suggested another counselor. "Humans are known to be ambitious." Olivia felt her patience wearing thin. "What would we possibly gain from this? We're asking for cooperation, not conquest." The meeting ended with the Viridians agreeing only to investigate the humans' claims. As they returned to the Harbinger, Olivia couldn't hide her frustration. "They treated us like we were children warning about monsters under the bed," she fumed. Ben shook his head. "It's not entirely surprising. The Viridians have been spacefaring for over 10,000 years. To them, we're newcomers." "We need better proof," Jack suggested, "something they can't dismiss." Over the next week, while the Viridians conducted their investigation, Ben worked tirelessly with the ship's computer to develop a new model of the void's expansion. Jack, meanwhile, created a universal warning beacon that could transmit data in formats recognizable to any known civilization. The breakthrough came when Ben discovered how to visualize the void's effects on gravity waves. "This is it," he told Olivia, showing her the new simulations. "No advanced civilization can ignore gravitational evidence. It's fundamental physics." When they presented their new findings to the Viridian Council, the atmosphere had changed dramatically. The council chamber was now filled with scientists and military officials, all looking significantly concerned. "Our long-range probes have confirmed your data," High Counselor Zeth admitted. "We owe you an apology, Captain Daniels, and our gratitude. What we need now is action," Olivia replied. "The Void doesn't care about our differences or misunderstandings. We have already contacted the Arcturian Confederation and the Ta Collective," Zeth said. "If this threat is as severe as it appears, we will need a united response." As they left the council chamber, Jack looked at Olivia. "One down, 16 more civilizations to warn." Olivia nodded grimly. "And we'd better hope they all listen faster than the Viridians did. Time isn't on our side." The Grand Assembly Hall on the neutral world of Proxima III buzzed with tension as representatives from 23 species gathered for the first-ever Galactic Survival Coalition meeting. Commander William Hayes adjusted his uniform nervously as he took his seat at the massive circular table. As humanity's chosen representative, he carried an enormous responsibility. "The session will now commence," announced the Arcturian moderator, their crystalline body glimmering under the chamber's lights. "We face an unprecedented crisis that threatens all sentient life." Holographic displays activated around the room, showing the latest data on the Void's expansion. The visualization made several delegates visibly uncomfortable. A dark sphere growing steadily larger, stars winking out as it passed through systems. "The Void has accelerated," stated the Viridian scientist. "At current rates, it will reach the Ta cluster within 6 years, not 8 as previously calculated." Murmurs spread through the assembly. William watched as fear rippled across alien faces, some with multiple eyes, others with none at all, but all expressing the same primal concern. "We've analyzed the human data extensively," continued the Viridian. "We must acknowledge that without their warning, we might have detected this threat too late." A tall, mantis-like Jorian rose from her seat. "Let us not praise the humans excessively. They stumbled upon this discovery through luck, not sophistication." William bit back a sharp retort as Chief Engineer Susan Foster touched his arm in warning. They both knew alienating potential allies would only hurt their cause. "With respect," Susan said, standing, "the origin of the discovery matters less than what we do with that knowledge now." She activated her own portable projector. "I've developed preliminary designs for energy diversion arrays that could, theoretically, redirect the void's path." The technical specifications appeared in the center of the room, rotating slowly for all to see. Susan's design involved massive structures positioned at strategic points around the void's projected path. "This would require resources beyond what any single civilization possesses," noted a Ta representative. "Precisely why we must work together," William replied. "Each species has unique technologies that combined might give us a fighting chance." The Shorian representative clicked her mandibles skeptically. "And who would control these arrays once built? Humans? No one species should control them," William said firmly. "We propose a joint command structure with representatives from all coalition members." The debate continued for hours, with technical questions, political concerns, and occasional outright hostility. Susan fielded the engineering queries masterfully, while William navigated the diplomatic minefield as best he could. By the end of the day, progress had been made. 7 species had committed resources to the project, while others remained hesitant but engaged in the discussion. As William and Susan returned to their quarters, they found Jack Monroe waiting for them with a data tablet. "How bad is it?" William asked, noting Jack's expression. "The Jorians are demanding leadership positions disproportionate to their contribution," Jack reported. "And the Ta want the array's position to protect their core worlds first, even though that configuration would be less effective overall." Susan collapsed into a chair. "Politics. Even with extinction looming, we can't escape it." William stared out the window at the unfamiliar night sky. "We need to remind them what's at stake. This isn't about power or influence. It's about survival." "Some see it as an opportunity," Jack said quietly. "The older powers resent us newcomers having any say at all. Others view this crisis as a chance to reshape galactic power structures." William turned back to his colleagues with renewed determination. "Then we'll just have to be better than that. More selfless, more focused on the mission." Susan nodded. "Tomorrow, I'll present the refined engineering plans. The math doesn't lie. They'll see we need each other." As they prepared for the next day's session, William couldn't help wondering if the void might claim them all while they argued over who would sit where in the coalition chambers. The massive construction platforms orbiting the uninhabited gas giant Kepler-9 hummed with activity. Thousands of workers from a dozen species labored side by side, assembling the first of 7 planned energy diversion arrays. Each array stood larger than Earth's moon, bristling with technology from across the galaxy. Security Officer Daniel Grant scanned the interior corridor of Platform Alpha, his hand resting on his sidearm. Something didn't feel right. The night shift had reported unusual power fluctuations in Sector 7, and Daniel had volunteered to investigate personally. "Security Chief Grant to command," he said into his comm. "I'm approaching the quantum stabilizer chamber now." "Acknowledged," came the reply from Dr. Kate Wilson, the project's lead scientist. "Sensors show 3 life forms inside. That's 2 more than should be there." Daniel drew his weapon and approached the sealed door carefully. Using his override code, he triggered the door to slide open while taking cover beside the frame. Inside, he found 2 hooded figures hunched over the main control panel while a terrified technician lay bound on the floor. "Security, don't move," Daniel shouted. The intruders spun around. One raised a device that emitted a high-pitched whine. Daniel fired, hitting the device and sending it skidding across the floor. The second intruder lunged at him, but Daniel sidestepped and knocked the attacker unconscious with the butt of his weapon. Within minutes, security teams had secured the area and detained both saboteurs. Daniel helped the shaken technician to his feet. They said the void must not be stopped. The technician whispered that it was divine cleansing. Later, in the command center, coalition leaders gathered to discuss the incident. Holographic displays showed the faces of those connecting remotely from across the galaxy. "This is the third sabotage attempt this month," William Hayes said grimly. "We've identified a pattern. They call themselves the Disciples of the Void." Dr. Kate Wilson stood up, her usual calm demeanor unsettled. "There's something more troubling than saboteurs. My team has completed new analyses of the Void structure." She activated a display showing swirling patterns of darkness. "This isn't a natural phenomenon. The Void bears energy signatures consistent with artificial creation." The room fell silent. "You're suggesting someone made this thing?" Daniel asked incredulously. Kate nodded. "The evidence points to it being engineered, though by whom or what, I can't say. The technology required would be beyond anything any known civilization possesses." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Susan Foster rushed to the main console. "The test firing sequence has initiated prematurely," she shouted. "Someone's overridden the safeguards." On the main screen, they watched as one section of the incomplete array powered up, its energy collectors glowing bright blue against the blackness of space. "Shut it down," William ordered. Susan's fingers flew across the controls. "I can't. The command pathways are locked." They watched in horror as the array fired a massive energy beam toward a designated test coordinate. Instead of creating the planned quantum barrier, the beam flickered and destabilized. The resulting energy backwash shattered 3 of the array's main conduits. "Damage report," William demanded. "We've lost 30% of the primary structure," Susan replied, her voice tight. "Months of work gone. And worse, the test revealed a fundamental flaw in our approach. The void. It absorbed our energy beam and actually expanded faster in response." The coalition representatives began arguing immediately. The Shorian ambassador's voice rose above the others. "This project is doomed. We cannot stop this thing. The Shorian Empire will begin evacuation protocols immediately." One by one, other species joined the call for retreat. The coalition that had formed with such promise was fracturing before their eyes. As William tried desperately to maintain order, Kate pulled him aside. "There's something else," she whispered. "The void responded to our beam almost intelligently. Whatever this thing is, I don't think it's just a mindless force of destruction." William looked at the chaos around them and the damaged array on the screen. Their first real defense against extinction was in ruins, and time was running out. The emergency alarms stopped blaring, but the red warning lights continued to pulse throughout the coalition headquarters. William Hayes stared at the holographic display with horror as the void consumed the Relian system. 18 billion lives extinguished in less than 6 hours. "It's accelerating beyond all projections," Dr. Kate Wilson said, her voice hollow with shock. "The energy discharge from our failed test appears to have fed it somehow." The coalition war room had thinned out considerably. 5 species had already withdrawn their support and recalled their representatives. Those who remained looked defeated. "We need direct observations," Kate continued. "All our remote data isn't giving us the complete picture." Captain Olivia Daniels stepped forward. "The Harbinger can get closer than any probe we've sent. Her shields were designed to withstand extreme conditions." "That's suicide," Susan Foster objected. "No ship has gone within a light year of the void and returned." "We don't need to return," Olivia said quietly. "We just need to transmit what we find." The silence that followed was broken by Lieutenant Laura Peterson, a neurologist who had been studying sensor data from the edge of the void. "I've detected something unusual in the readings," she said, pulling up her own data set. "There's a pattern in the quantum fluctuations of the void's boundary that resembles neural activity." "Neural activity?" William asked. "You're saying the void is alive?" Laura shook her head. "Not exactly. But consciousness might interact with it somehow. Every probe we've sent has been automated. We've never sent living, thinking beings near it." Kate's eyes widened with sudden understanding. "That could explain why it responds differently to different types of matter. It's reacting to consciousness itself." Olivia looked at her ship's crew, who nodded their agreement. "Then we have to go. The Harbinger will get as close as possible and gather direct readings." The preparations took just 12 hours. The Harbinger was equipped with every sensor known to the Coalition species and newly developed quantum shielding. The mission parameters were simple: approach the void, gather data, and transmit findings continuously. As Olivia prepared to board, William caught her arm. "You understand this is likely one way." She nodded. "Better to die trying than wait for it to claim us all." The Harbinger departed with a crew of 28 volunteers. For 3 days, they traveled toward the expanding darkness, sending back streams of data. Each transmission became increasingly valuable as they ventured where no sensors had successfully reported from before. On the 4th day, they'd reached the outer boundary of the void's influence. The ship's systems began to fluctuate. "All readings are off the charts," Ryan reported from the pilot's console. "The void is bending reality itself around us." Laura suddenly sat up straight at her station. "Captain, I'm detecting massive neural pattern responses from the void. It's reacting to us specifically, to our thoughts." The ship shuddered violently as energy waves buffeted the hull. "Shields at 60%, Jack called out. "We're still holding, but not for long." Laura was frantically analyzing the incoming data. I think we could establish contact. Not communication exactly, but a kind of mental interface." "That's what it wants," Olivia realized. "It's been consuming worlds, but what it's really seeking is consciousness." The final transmission from the Harbinger came 18 hours later. By then, they had drifted so close to the void that their signal was barely comprehensible through the distortion. "We've designed a neural interface," Laura's distorted voice reported. "Based on our findings, we believe a direct conscious connection might influence the void's behavior. We're going to attempt to establish that connection." Back at Coalition headquarters, Kate turned to William, her face pale. "They're going to try to merge their minds with it." "Can that work?" William asked. "I don't know," Kate admitted. "But they've given us something no one else could: a possible way to fight back." The transmission ended with Captain Daniel's final words. "If we don't make it back, build the neural interface ship. It's our only hope." The ship known as the Last Light gleamed against the blackness of space, unlike any vessel built before. Its hull incorporated technology from 17 different species, but at its core lay something uniquely human: a neural interface chamber designed by Dr. Kate Wilson, based on Lieutenant Laura Peterson's final transmission. Dr. Alan Wright adjusted the neural connector on his temple, trying to ignore the fear gnawing at his insides. Around him, Commander William Hayes and 3 other volunteers did the same. They formed a circle in the interface chamber, surrounded by blinking equipment and humming power conduits. "Final systems check complete," reported Amy Reeves, the communications officer. Her voice betrayed her nervousness, despite her professional demeanor. "Neural pathways are aligned and stable." "Distance to void boundary?" William asked. 3 million kilometers and closing," answered the pilot from the bridge, his voice coming through the intercom. 17 minutes until contact." Elen looked at his companions. They had trained together for 2 months, learning to synchronize their thoughts and create a unified mental presence. The Coalition's best scientists believed this might allow them to communicate with whatever intelligence existed within the void. "We're receiving the final data packet from Coalition headquarters," Amy announced. "Dr. Kate sends her regards, and a personal message for you, Dr. Wright." Alan nodded, though he couldn't bring himself to read it yet. If they failed, nothing would matter anyway. The ship's sensors began registering the familiar distortions as they approached the void's influence. The lights flickered briefly before the backup systems engage. Beginning neural synchronization, William commanded. The interface activated with a soft hum. Alan felt the strange sensation of other minds brushing against his. William's disciplined focus, Amy's analytical precision, and the other's determined concentration. Together, their consciousness expanded beyond normal human limitations. "I'm detecting something," Amy whispered after several minutes. "It's faint, but there's a pattern in the quantum field at the boundary. It's responding to our presence." Through the viewport, they could see it now, not just darkness, but a swirling absence of everything, as if reality itself was being unwritten. The void's edge pulsed with strange energies that no instrument could properly measure. Suddenly, Alan gasped as foreign thoughts invaded their shared mental space. Images and concepts too alien to comprehend flooded his mind. "It's communicating," he managed to say through gritted teeth. The others nodded, their faces showing the strain of processing the alien contact. "I'm seeing structures," William said. "Vast machines, built by something ancient." "Not machines," Alan corrected as understanding dawned on him. "Tools. The void is a tool." More images cascaded through their linked consciousness. Civilizations rising and falling across billions of years, galaxies forming and dying, and always the void, expanding and contracting like a cosmic heartbeat. "It's a reset mechanism," Alan realized, "created by the first sentient species to ever evolve in our galaxy. When they saw how life and intelligence would eventually develop and compete, they built this as a failsafe. A reset button for the galaxy," William whispered. "When conflicts between advanced species threaten the fabric of space-time itself, the void activates to clear the board." Amy's eyes widened. "It thinks we've reached that point. It's responding to the quantum weapons some species have been developing." The ship shuddered violently as they drifted closer to the boundary. Systems began failing throughout the vessel. "We need to show it we're different," Alan said urgently. "That we can cooperate, not just destroy." William nodded. "The neural link. If we fully connect with it, we might be able to prove our point." "That would mean entering the void physically," Amy said, her voice trembling. Alan looked at his companions. "The Harbinger crew sacrificed themselves to give us this chance. We have to take it." William activated the ship-wide communication system. "Attention all crew. Prepare for direct void interface. Begin emergency transmission protocol Delta." As the last light prepared to cross the boundary, Alan sent a final message to Coalition headquarters. "We understand now. The void is not our enemy, but a guardian gone rogue. We're going in to reason with it. If we fail, remember, the answer isn't to fight the darkness, but to prove we deserve the light." The observation deck of Earth's largest space station fell silent as the last light disappeared into the swirling darkness of the void. For 7 agonizing minutes, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the endless expansion simply stopped. Dr. Kate Wilson stared at her instruments in disbelief. "The void's boundary has stabilized," she announced, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's no longer growing." Cheers erupted across the command center, but Kate remained focused on her readings. Something else was happening at the edge of the void. Subtle energy patterns, unlike anything previously recorded. "We're receiving a transmission," called out a technician. It's incredibly weak, but it's definitely coming from inside the void." The room fell silent again as garbled sounds emerged from the speakers. Gradually, the distortion cleared enough to make out words. "Successful neural connection. Existence within and without. Guardians now. Humanity stands watch." The voice was simultaneously Alan's and not Alan's, as if multiple consciousnesses were speaking through him. Susan Foster shook her head in amazement. They did it. They somehow merged with the void itself. Over the following weeks, more transmissions arrived, each clearer than the last. The team from the last light explained what they had discovered and what they had become. The void had been created billions of years ago as a fail-safe mechanism against catastrophic threats to space-time itself. Over eons, it had gained a form of sentience, but lost its original purpose, expanding without direction or control. The human neural interface had provided something the void needed: perspective, empathy, and a renewed sense of purpose. The team members now existed in a state beyond normal human understanding. Their consciousness spread throughout the void while retaining their individuality. 6 months after the last light's disappearance, a coalition fleet gathered at the edge of what was now called the Boundary. Ships from 27 species formed the largest space armada ever assembled. Their mission: to place warning beacons around the void's perimeter, ensuring that no future civilization would accidentally disturb the delicate balance that had been achieved. On Earth, the United Government established the Void Archives, a vast complex dedicated to documenting everything known about the near-extinction event and the sacrifices made to stop it. Similar monuments appeared on worlds throughout the coalition, often featuring statues of the crew members of both the Harbinger and the Last Light. In a solemn ceremony marking 1 year since the void stabilization, representatives from all coalition species gathered on Proxima II. William Hayes' daughter accepted a Medal of Honor on her father's behalf, fighting back tears as she addressed the assembly. "My father always believed that humanity's greatest strength wasn't our technology or our intelligence, but our ability to hope even in the darkest times," she said. Today, we honor those who carried that hope into the void itself. As the ceremony concluded, communication systems throughout the galaxy simultaneously received a new transmission, stronger than any before. The image of Alan Wright appeared on screens everywhere, though his appearance had changed subtly. His eyes now contained swirling galaxies, and his skin seemed to shimmer with starlight. "We continue to exist," he said, his voice resonating with strange harmonics. "Humanity now stands guard in 2 realms, your physical universe and the void between. We have become what was always intended, guardians against the darkness, not its victims." He smiled, an expression both familiar and alien. "The void claims all who enter, but not as you feared. We are not destroyed, but transformed. We watch, we protect, and we remember what it means to be human." The transmission ended, leaving billions across the galaxy with a mixture of awe and comfort. Earth's astronomers noted that night that the stars near the boundary seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting light that couldn't possibly reach them. On observatory decks and in simple backyards across countless worlds, people looked up at their night skies with new understanding. The void that had nearly consumed everything had instead become a reminder of what could be accomplished when fear gave way to courage, and when species set aside their differences to face the unknown together. Humanity had delivered its final warning to the galaxy, but also its greatest gift: proof that even the darkness between stars could be transformed by the light of consciousness. 500 years after the void had been contained, humanity had spread throughout the galaxy. What was once a desperate warning had transformed into a founding myth for a new era of interspecies cooperation. On the remote planet Elysium, Professor Nora Allen sorted through ancient data files in the university's archive. As the leading historian on what scholars now called the Void Crisis, she had dedicated her life to preserving the truth behind the legends. "Professor, you need to see this," called her assistant, Greg Pearson, from across the climate-controlled room. His excitement was evident as he waved her over to his workstation. "What have you found?" Nora asked, adjusting her glasses as she peered at his screen. "A sealed transmission packet from the Last Light. It's been locked in the deep archives for centuries, programmed to decrypt itself today." Greg's fingers trembled slightly as he opened the file. The holographic projector flickered to life, revealing the face of Alan Wright, not the godlike figure of later transmissions, but the man as he had been in his final moments aboard the Last Light. "If you're watching this," Alan's recording began. Then 5 centuries have passed since we entered the void. This message contains information we couldn't risk sharing until now. Nora and Greg exchanged shocked glances as Alan continued. The void was not merely a reset mechanism. It was also a doorway, a passage to something beyond our universe. The ancient builders discovered that our reality is just one of many, layered like pages in a book. Alan's image shifted, showing strange diagrams that seemed to bend in impossible ways. We've learned to navigate between these layers. The void no longer consumes. It transforms and transports. But this knowledge was too dangerous for a young coalition. Used improperly, it could tear apart the fabric of multiple realities. Nora leaned closer, mesmerized. This changes everything we thought we knew. The recording continued. By now, the boundary technologies should have advanced enough for safe exploration. Attached to this message are coordinates within the void, safe passages we've created that lead to other realities where life evolved along different paths. Greg immediately began examining the attached data. These are navigation charts, he breathed. Actual routes through the void to other universes. We've prepared these other realms for contact, Alan explained. Humanity's role as messenger continues, but now we bring worlds together rather than simply warning of destruction. The image smiled, looking remarkably human despite 5 centuries of existence beyond normal reality. It's time for the next phase of our journey. The void claims all, but not as an end, as a beginning. The transmission ended, leaving Nora and Greg sitting in stunned silence. We need to contact the Galactic Council immediately, Nora finally said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. 3 weeks later, a special session of the Council convened on Earth, the first time in 200 years that representatives from all coalition species had gathered in one location. Nora presented the findings to the assembled delegates, her words echoing through the Grand Chamber. For 5 centuries, we've viewed the void as a contained threat, a scar on our galaxy that reminds us of how close we came to extinction, she concluded. Now we understand it's something else entirely, a gateway to new beginnings. The Arcturian elder rose first, their crystalline form catching the light. Our ancestors joined with humans to prevent the end of everything. Now it seems we face a new beginning instead. Plans were quickly drafted for a research expedition. A new ship, christened the First Bridge, would attempt the first controlled journey through the void using Alan's coordinates. As Nora watched the preparations from the observation deck, Greg joined her. Afraid? He asked quietly. She shook her head. No. 500 years ago, humanity warned the galaxy about darkness consuming everything. Now we get to deliver a different message entirely. What message is that? Greg asked. Nora smiled as she watched the ship's quantum engines power up. That the void doesn't end all things. It connects them.